Hey, this is Guy, and we're going to be talking about, was this the best offseason in franchise history? Front office wise, the Bengals got a lot of deals done with Jamar, T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, B.J. Hill, Mike Gesicki. We're going to be highlighting those. That's what happened over the offseason. Was it the best in franchise history? They got a lot of stuff done inside of the building and when it comes to the stadium as well. And then we're also going to be talking about the preseason recaps of the starters. How did they do? And then do we have a possible breakout wide receiver coming out? We're going to be talking about that, weeks 1 and 2, how the starters did in the preseason. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. This is your Six Guy. Hey, this is Guy. Like I said, we're going to be talking about, was this the best offseason in franchise history? The Bengals got so many deals done, and it all came down to the wire for pretty much almost every single one of them. Starting off, before the offseason even started, Super Bowl weekend, Joe Burrow went on live television on ESPN and basically pretty much demanded that the Bengals get the deals done with Trey Hendrickson, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, along with Mike Gesicki and B.J. Hill. Guess what? All 5 of them got done, and it was not easy at all for anybody. The process was very hard, and starting off, we're going to start off with T and Jamar. T and Jamar got their long-term deals done. Of course, we know that as Bengals. Now, the deals came earlier in the season. I think it was maybe early in the offseason, maybe March when the deals got done. T. Higgins signed a 4-year, $115 million contract, and Jamar Chase signed a 4-year, at the time, was the highest paid non-quarterback player in NFL history at the time. It was a 4-year, $161 million contract. He is no longer the highest paid non-quarterback. That goes to Micah Parsons, where the Cowboys and Packers just agreed on a blockbuster deal a few days back. So those guys are locked in until the future. So they have a lot of time to put up some historic numbers and championships along the way offensively. Of course, now we all know the defense has had its struggles. We're going to be talking about that here in a minute. Defense has had its struggles, especially in the preseason. They really struggled. But those deals got done. Then they got the Mike Gesicki deal. That was a 3-year, $25.5 million contract. They got the B.J. Hill deal done. That was another 3-year contract. The Cincinnati Bengals were standing on business right out of the gate. They didn't want these guys to hit free agency. T. Higgins would have hit free agency. Jamar Chase, of course, is kind of on a 5-year deal, $161 million, because he had the fifth year option. But the Bengals got those deals done, and that's basically when everything went downhill when it comes to the Trey Hendrickson situation. This Trey Hendrickson situation was a thing that has been going on for almost over a year now. And the Bengals, nobody really knew what the Bengals were going to do. The options were possibly get the contract done or trade him on draft night. And instead of the situation is getting better, they got worse. The Cincinnati Bengals drafted Jamar Stewart, outstanding talent. People look at the numbers and he didn't do too much. He had 5 total sacks in his college career. It's production over numbers. It's not always about the stats, and that's what Jamar Stewart does. He disrupts the quarterback, disrupts the run, really causes chaos at the front of the line for the Cincinnati Bengals, where he played at Texas A&M. But after the Bengals drafted Jamar Stewart, he didn't agree to a contract until July, during training camp. Jamar Stewart held out until he got the contract, and that is crazy to say because that is a rookie guy. But they finally got the deal done. It is a 4-year. I think it was close to $20 million for Jamar Stewart. So he is locked in. At this point, we are in training camp. The Cincinnati Bengals have not traded Trey Hendrickson yet, and they have not agreed on a new contract. Trey Hendrickson didn't even show up to the beginning of training camp. And earlier, before training camp, he demanded a trade. And that was not the first time he's done that. He did that a few off seasons ago. But he demanded a trade. And so the Bengals were wondering, we're in a bad situation when it comes to Trey Hendrickson. They want him, but do they want him for the future? That's what seems to be the issue. There was a report out there that the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson did have an agreement on the years and the millions of he was going to make. It was just about the guarantees. The Bengals are only guaranteeing 1 year of the full money out of the 3. So that was an interesting situation. So at this point, Trey Hendrickson does show back up to training camp. He is not participating. He is just there coaching, I guess. And then a few days ago, before the Micah Parsons blockbuster trade, Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals agreed on a $14 million raise. So this is not a contract extension. This is just a raise. Trey Hendrickson made it very, very clear that he was not going to play under the current contract that he was in. He was only making $16 million, maybe even $13 million. He was only making very little money compared to what he's going to be making now. It is a $14 million raise, so he is under a 1-year, $30 million contract, and that ended the Trey Hendrickson frenzy. This is going to be a big season for the Bengals, and like I said, that was probably the best offseason in Bengals history. The preseason, week 1, Joe, Jamar, and the starters, yes, they played. Joe Burrow went 9 for 10, 2 touchdowns and 123 yards on just a great job. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow started right where they left off. Jamar Chase had a touchdown. It would have been 2 if it wasn't a flag on the first drive, but Jamar Chase had a touchdown. Jamar Chase did great. The starters did great. The Bengals played their starters. Let me make this clear. The offensive starters did great. The defense still struggled very, very much. Somehow, some way, this defense looks worse than it did last year, and I know people think that's impossible to reach, but it's very, very hard. This defense looks worse than it did last year, and that just carries into preseason week 2. Joe Burrow and the starters did play more. More so, Joe Burrow, he played into the second quarter, while some of the starters only played about a drive or 2. But Joe Burrow got most of the reps in the first half. He did have a touchdown pass to Charlie Jones, which was a beautiful play. And along with the defense. The defense, goodness gracious, the defense let the Commanders score in 4 plays without passing the football once. And it ended on a Jaden Daniels touchdown. Let me tell you, the Commanders are such a young, promising team that I'm not going to overlook it because it's not like the Commanders are at the bottom of the league or anything. They're up here. They're going to be up here for years if they can handle it. But the Bengals let Jaden Daniels and the starters go down the field in 4 plays without even passing the ball and score. And it started off on a Deebo Samuel sweep. So the Bengals not only struggled to close the gap, they struggled to tackle. It just doesn't look good when it comes to Cincinnati Bengals defense here in 25-26. And it kind of has to be. And I don't understand why it was like that. The Bengals, they went and fired Lou Anarumo, who was now the head coach for the Indianapolis Colts. But they went and fired Lou Anarumo and picked up new defensive coordinator Al Golden, who hopefully can flip this defense around. But like I said in the beginning, is there a breakout wide receiver in the possibility? Because now the Cincinnati Bengals have a breakout wide receiver named Mitchell Tinsley, who balled out on national television in the preseason week 2. He had 2 fabulous touchdowns, 2 fabulous catches, and played fantastic with Jake Browning. That solidified him a roster spot, and now the Bengals are going to be working him up, hopefully getting him some first-team reps with the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow as the season goes on. So like I said, that's pretty much the story of this video. It was kind of fast-paced because I am running out of time, but it was fast-paced. The Cincinnati Bengals probably had arguably the best offseason in franchise history, highlighted by Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson. Those deals finally got done after years and years of controversy problems. It was very troublesome and very stressful. So those deals are done. Joe, Jamar, T, Trey, Mike, BJ Hill, all locked in for the foreseeable future. This is the year for the Cincinnati Bengals. They have to capitalize off of it. This is a make or break year. Hopefully the defense can step up. Hopefully everybody can continue to play like the way they did last year, aside from the defense. Offensively, hopefully everybody can stay the same. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. This is just Guy.